we go. All right, there we go. Okay, so let me go back and share my screen. And we're going to be in the live binder. So the first thing I want to do is just go over the documents. You should know that this is a summary of what the EdTPA means. And the goal here is to get you comfortable with what's happening and empower you to attack this document. Have you looked at the document?
I have.
Okay.
And I've read making choices already, and yeah, and all the rubrics.
Okay, so you've done those, or you've looked at them?
I've looked at them.
Okay, good. That gives you ahead of the game. So the first part in red is the most important part, is read the handbooks. Follow all the directions exactly. So if they say something can be no more than 4 pages, do not give them a 5th page. If they said the font needs to be a certain size, give them that size, because you can get dinged for giving them information they didn't ask for.
Wow.
Okay. And if you don't read the directions carefully, you'll get dinged because you gave them an apples answer and they wanted oranges. Don't provide more than asked. Don't provide less than asked, and check your work against the EdTPA rubrics. Before you hand it in, put your work, there's a check form in here, you'll be able to see it. Put your work next to this check form, and then say, does my work meet this description? If it does, put a check mark next to it. If it doesn't, think about what you can do. Okay? So here's basically, let me pull that up this way. I think I'm gonna just have the whole thing on my, okay. So here is the capstone for the EdTPA. I'm going to begin to use their language so that you can get comfortable with their language on the documents. The planning to teach, which you'll find in task 1, is the most important piece in everything that you're doing. And that planning to teach document is how they're going to measure everything else that happens in tasks 2, 3. Not necessarily task 4, but tasks 2 and 3. And that's because your planning to teach is where you are taking in all the data that you know about theories, about students, about content, about integration, about ELD and ELL and special needs and visuals and manipulatives and all of whatever it is you're doing. And you're determining, based on who these kids are, in the context of where they live and what they know, what are the best choices for them. So the first document is your intent. This is what you intend to do. They will measure your intent against your actions. It's okay if something you wrote in the intent does not show up in the actions. Because maybe as you're in the lesson, there's no time for it or something else comes up. That's fine, but they need to know your intentions. Then the next part of task 1 is the actual lesson plan itself, the instruction, the implementation. This leads you to task 2, because task 2 is the video. Task 3 is the assessment to the student's response. You do all of these in task 1, commentary, and in task 1, planning. And then they look for what you did in task 2 when they see you do the work, and then your ability to analyze what you're teaching, to use academic language. The academic language, we have not taught directly to you how to teach academic language. So I need to know now, are you comfortable with using academic language in your classroom? Do you use academic language when you teach?
I believe for kindergartners, the academic language has to be like, for example, if we're talking about a math lesson, it would be like using the words like I predict.
Okay, that's part. Let me come back here. It's really important that,
or even for vocabulary words, we have to like kind of teach the vocab before. But a lot of we do a lot of predictions. We do like, yes, I predict. Even when we're reading the story, what do you think will happen next?
Okay.
things like that. And
So
but
when your students are talking to you, are they always using complete sentences?
yes, that's something that the mentor teacher does focus on.
Okay. When the students are talking, do you have sentence strips or supports for them so they can use the complete sentences?
There's no sentence frames. What happens is that if they don't respond in a complete sentence, then the teacher will correct them and go back and say, well, can you say that in a complete sentence? If they still don't understand, then she'll break it down for them and say, okay.
So you have a mentor teacher that's doing some wonderful things. You have to make sure that you do those things as well. That's evident, because this is really the paradigm that they're looking at, balanced literacy. Balanced literacy is reading, writing, listening, and speaking, word study, and assessment. So when you see a bubble like this, and then you have modeling writing, shared writing, guided writing, and independent writing, these are the functions. So the language demand in writing is they're going to write. You're going to determine what kind of writing, and that is going to be the language demand function. Then you're going to provide them the context in which to use that function. If we're using a guided reading lesson or a guided writing lesson, you are then going to create the lesson so that the students will be able to interact with guided writing to improve their writing and the supports therein. And students will use the proper content, context, and syntax, because language is about communicating and comprehending. And are the students able to do that in your balanced literacy? So when you look, so these are the functions, language functions. Read aloud. Let me say, these are word studies. These are kinds of vocabulary word studies you can do. With listening and speaking, like if you're going to have a discussion, they're not going to talk, they're going to discuss. Well, discussing looks different than sharing, which looks different than predicting. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you have to determine the function, which is the verb. What are they going to do? Then you have to set it up so that they can see this is what they're going to do. And the vocabulary, yes, you have to front load, but you got two kinds of vocabulary. You got target vocabulary and you have ancillary, or vocabulary required in order to have access to whatever it is the kids are going to do. So you have to teach both of them, or you have to show evidence of having taught them. Evidence is key. So if you did not decide to record that lesson, but you record not the vocabulary part, but something else, you're going to really have to write up with how you front loaded that vocabulary. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think I was reading, I believe it was only 20 minutes that we can record.
Total, but you have 2 recordings. You have 2 recordings that cannot go over 20 minutes, and they should not be total less than 5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. So this is the balanced literacy. From that, you would have the lesson, and then this is just 2 other lessons. But so this is what we're talking about here. Okay, so I'm going to get back to the document. Oh, it's on my desktop. Come on, there's a Word document on my desktop. Oh, I cannot get rid of this. I don't know. No, it's not. In California, your focus student is going to be an EL student. This is a student that you must have modifications for that are detailed. However, you must write about what you're going to do for your special needs student, but you do not have to have evidence of the adaptation. So we talked about, hey, shush. We talked about the balanced literacy. This is sort of a breakdown, so you'll be able to come back and understand, because we're going to go to the rubrics right after we go to this. There's a common architecture in all of the tasks. So I'm only going to really go into one because everything else is the same in all the other tasks. If you want to see more and get more detailed, I just uploaded the hour and 12-minute video that is extremely detailed. And I presented this the day after we went to training. It is highly detailed. If you want to watch it, stop, start. It's got tags on it so you can go to wherever it is you want to go without listening to me talk about stuff you're not interested in. Okay,
What
so
is this? What tab can I find that under?
I'll show you. It's right in the live binder. Okay, I'll show you. It's in the EdTPA live binder. It's not in the balanced literacy one. It's in the there are 3 EdTPA live binders. It's
right.
labeled. Okay, so then you have 3 to 5 days. It says / or hours of instruction, which means this just has to go, and these are called the learning event. They call it the learning event. So you could have, 5 days, 5 hours worth of instruction. It just means it has to go over a period of time, so it's linked. You're going to present every single day of those instructions. So basically, I encourage you to do a 3-day lesson because you have to write less. But if you want to do a 5-day lesson, that's fine. It's very important that your school, your content, the students, this should be, and what they bring to the classroom is noted. What do these kids bring to you? In other words, you cannot teach whom you do not know. You need to talk about social emotional, language development, prior knowledge, life experience, community, artifacts and commentaries, and evidence of their learning. Meaning when you describe this class, the evaluator should know that you really know who you're teaching.
One of the, I picked this story, Ali and Ollie, for the students. And it's a kindergarten level and I did that with my mentor, and my mentor's like, you know what, a lot of the kids like dogs and they have dogs in this classroom. So again, that would be something that I could write, saying that, there is an interest.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, of dogs in the classroom. And
that's right. And that's developmentally appropriate. Make sure you go back to your developmental chart. It is also here where you want to, you can do it throughout the entire document, but if you're going to bring in a theorist that talks about, Piaget and whatever, don't just drop the name in there. You drop the name in there in relationship to these kids specifically. Okay. Task 1, your intent. This is your instructional and social context. It is also your lesson plan. It is the instructional materials for the students' assignments. It's your planning commentary where you explain why they did things, how they built one thing on another, and why things have relevance to the student. So they like dogs. Make sure you say that in what you do. And then when you have this thing about the dogs, you say, I picked this because they like dogs. A lot of them have dogs. And so I thought this would be relatable to them. That's what you say.
Okay.
You have to understand how the strategies and the activities work together and for their rationale. Now, I'm not sure how Linda has explained to you. I know Linda is so competent that I'm not really concerned overall, but you're not my student, so I have to make sure that at least the way I use language, you'll understand what I'm saying, because Linda might say something differently and it would mean something else. Strategies and activities. Strategies are teacher choices. These are your good choices. I think I'll use this strategy, dogs, because it's really, I think it'll make this story more relatable to the children. So as you are doing dogs here for the strategy, what's the activity that the students are going to be doing that matches the strategy? This is what the teacher does. This is the companion activity to get a result, a learning result. You want to make sure that you can just say, I chose this because.